Welcome. So we'll give a little bit of time for people to come in. Welcome to
It just hit the stream right now.
right now. Well,
And it's showing up on the party page,
somebody's
too.
audio, I'm going to think it's Steve's, is feeding into us so we can hear it.
It's headphones. Oh, it's because you copied and pasted me? Go turn the audio off in that scene. It duplicated the audio again. So Skype audio is in one of the scenes twice, probably.
Check.
And now I lost all audio.
Hey guys, what's up?
Did you fix it?
Struggle. So Steve, I can hear myself when I talk, which means it's not the audio doubling. I think it's from yours. Can you close the party?
The party's muted. So I'll do that though.
Maybe
I'll close Safari here.
Open. Myself. Is it Vogel? It's just me.
Oh, you know what it is? You have yourself on monitor. So go into advanced audio properties. Check yours, and does it say monitor? Hello, world. We're just figuring things out.
Nobody's got anywhere to be.
If you go into advanced audio properties,
its monitors off.
Yeah. Does it say monitor off? Oh, okay. Weird.
All right. Well, I'll just take one of my headphones out before I go crazy. What up, everyone? How you doing? Can anybody else hear everything twice, or is it just me?
No, I hear everything fine. Well, I haven't heard Matt talk.
I've been on mute, drinking water, making terrible noises.
It's great.
It's weird. I love it.
All right, I had the Twitch up the whole time. It was my fault. I'm a bad guy.
You can have it up. Just mute it. Just click the mute.
I'm a bad guy. All right, guys. Thanks for coming. It looks like we got a good amount of people here, so we'll get going. And if you miss it, it's cool because this will be up on the VOD later, so you can check it out. Thanks for watching me struggle with hearing my own voice twice. If you're here, you're probably familiar with Maddie and I. Maybe not Steve, but Steve is my good friend who has a podcast called Behind the Shot, as well as he's helped me in real life with workshops and other meetups we've done, and basically is a better speaker than anybody I've ever met. So he's here because he makes it work. He makes it flow. But
you're way too kind, my friend.
Yeah. And we're usually bald brothers, but right now, because of quarantine, I've grown my hair out a little bit. That being said,
take off the hat.
Absolutely not. Get. All right, good talking. Anyway, we got Maddie here. Maddie, thank you for coming.
Hello.
Thanks course, we've known Maddie. Well, I've known Maddie for like 11 years, and Steve and Maddie are new friends. What's going on with this video? It's just glitching, huh?
Hi, Maddie.
Oh, well.
Hey, Steve. I like you more than I like Adam.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's because I don't have my hat on.
And sorry about the video twitching, guys, but it is what it is. It might be because of, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to move this stuff. Anyway, so we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to start with an interview with Maddie. Then we're going to do Behind the Shot, where Steve's going to talk about some information behind the shot with Billie. And then Maddie's going to edit the photo live for you guys, show us some of his favorite pics, and then we'll go through like kind of everybody's pics. And then if you guys have any questions, feel free to submit them here. We'll kind of watch over the chat, and we have some questions you guys submitted ahead of time. Shots fired. Anyway, yeah, so Maddie, where are you from, man?
I am from Little Minnesota, and it's crazy. We saw that email. Adam and I dug up an old email that I sent him 10 years ago?
Yeah.
11 years ago?
It's been a bit.
Yeah, a while. And Adam was a Wisconsin boy. And when I was growing up in Minnesota and getting into music and photography, Adam was my idol, and like the person who had the job that I didn't know was a job, and made it all possible. So we go back pretty far.
Yes, literally. All the way back to Wisconsin. Well, hell yeah. And so you started in Minneapolis. I started in Wisconsin.
Started in
and
Minneapolis.
then how did you start touring? Like what was your next step? Like I know you went to college, right? No. Am I wrong there?
I did go to college. I went to college in Des Moines, Iowa, which obviously is like the music capital of the world. And they get like 5 shows a year. It's really not a place to go if you want to shoot a ton of shows. So that was kind of counterproductive, but I would drive from Des Moines to Minneapolis for shows, like on weekends and stuff, and I'd photograph like everything I could. And I did that for a while, and a lot of little bands would come through Des Moines and play like tiny bars and stuff. And there was this band called The Dangerous Summer, who still exists and who are still amazing. But back in like 2012-ish, 2011, whenever they'd come through town, I'd let them crash at my apartment, and they'd stay on the floor before they'd drive to the next show the next morning. So I kind of became friends with them by offering them my very uncomfortable floor. And eventually, once I graduated college, they asked me if I wanted to come out for a couple weeks on tour and take some photos. I would shoot their show every time they came through town and give them the shots. And yeah, they asked me to come out for a very small amount of money, but it was an awesome opportunity. And I thought I would do that once and go on tour before I got a real job. And that is kind of a long time ago now. And I still haven't gotten a real job, which I'm very
what's
happy
interesting
about.
is that sounds like almost exactly Adam's story with A Day to Remember.
Yeah.
The parallel there is interesting.
Yeah, it is crazy. I feel like it's how a lot of people, I don't know, maybe in our corner of the industry get their start is just like someone taking a chance or, working hard, and then someone being like, oh, cool, we don't have much money, but like we'll pay as much as we can for like cool photos. And I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty common story, but it's incredible every time.
Adam is having a lot of fun
Dude,
with the video.
it's glitching on me.
Did you rotate it or did it do it on its own?
It was trying to fix it. It's got a mind of its own. Now you can see it's jumped big, and I'm literally doing nothing. Nah.
And mine's tiny.
All right, guys. Well, you can hear us and you can see us. It's going to be, we're kind of morphing, but it just is what it is. And I'm trying to correct it as I can. That's why I was laughing. I was listening to. But yeah, no, we definitely started in a similar way because that's kind of how it worked back then, right? You just didn't have there wasn't as many people doing it. So, and I very similar with people staying on my floor and, meeting the bands that way. And then.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, Maddie, how did you take that band that came through your town and them sleeping on your floor? How did you move that towards the big names that you tour with now? What was that like?
Yeah, it's I guess it's been a long process. It's every time thinking that you're at the highest rung of the ladder that you're ever going to go. And I was like, great, I got on tour and I got to tour in a van for a couple weeks. And then the band was like, oh, these photos are amazing and we had a great time with you. Why don't you come to the UK for a couple shows next month? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I've never been overseas before. So like that was a brand new opportunity that I never would have imagined. And then after that, it was like, oh, this guy is a tour photographer, and other people that I'd met on tour in other bands and like managers and other musicians and their friends, and kind of just like builds itself pretty organically. And after I'd done like a couple tours for the smaller band, people started hitting me up being like, hey, we're looking for a tour photographer. And I was like, oh, I guess that's me. It doesn't feel like me, but I guess that is. So that's kind of how it all started. And the clients just kind of kept gradually getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the opportunities the same. So I think it's been a slow process, and I know that's not everyone's story, but every time I get to have a new experience, it feels pretty rewarding because it's something that I never really planned or imagined. So I guess that's how it's been working.
It's kind of cool that it happened organically with them calling you. I love the My buddy Paul's in the chat and said the video moving around is tripping him out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like trying to play. I'm like doing it while you guys are talking, so I apologize, but it's all good.
So, Maddie, I'm kind of curious. Your transition from being, quote unquote, a music photographer to going on tour with big name bands. I mean, like Billy, like we're talking about the shot today. For those people that want to move into that world, what was the biggest unexpected thing? What was the thing that happened to you as you were making that move that surprised you and caught you off guard the most that other people should know about in advance?
Honestly, I think the more experience I got in the music industry, the more I realized that it is amazing to be the most talented photographer, and it's amazing to be the most enjoyable person to be around. Even more incredible than all of that is there's so much luck, and there's so much of happening to be in the right place at the right time, and who and who will vouch for you and say, hey, this guy's great, bring him on tour. That's really what's brought me to every new part of my career. The first big artist I worked for was this band 30 Seconds to Mars, and they were opening for Muse on a US amphitheater tour. I was with this band. Yeah, it was a great tour. It was a couple years ago, and I was working with this band called Paris, who are a great band and big in their own right, but they were the first of the 3 acts on this amphitheater tour. And one night, the 30 Seconds to Mars photographer was sick or something, or didn't come to the show. And 10 minutes before 30 Seconds to Mars went on, the band's assistant came up and knocked on a dressing room door. Was like, hey, can we use your photographer tonight? And
really?
You're like, that's me.
I was like,
I'm that guy. That's me.
I was like, that's me.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, of course, I'll shoot for you.
Maddie jumping in the corner. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, and to top it all off, it was Red Rocks. So I was like, I'm not obviously going to say, oh, it's something like this. It was amazing, and it was an awesome show. And after I shot that one, 2 days later, their manager emailed me and was like, these photos are awesome. The band loves them. What are you doing next year? I was like, oh, well, now I don't know. So that's kind of how that whole opportunity started. And it was really just luck and being in the right place at the right time.
It sounds like you were luck, right place, right time, but that was backed by, competent personality mixed with, work. If you had that same opportunity came up, and I've definitely been in the position where I've had a similar opportunity come up and I just didn't deliver or something like that, you just don't get the gig. Or maybe you do deliver and you still don't get the gig. Sometimes, I don't know.
True.
But that's great. That's great to hear that that's kind of, you've pinpointed the exact moment in time that you kind of got that gig.
Here's the thing, and I've asked Adam this a long time ago, but I'm kind of curious, Matt, how you dealt with it. What you just described, though, is the jobs that you're getting because you're being referred by people that say, no, you can trust this guy. You've got the weight of somebody else's reputation on every job you go out on.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, which is great. And obviously a testament to being a good person to have around on tour, and obviously, trying to put forward the best work that you possibly can and give your clients something new and something interesting, and matching their brand and representing them well and all of that stuff. But I think a lot of the opportunities I've had are not even from artists themselves, but tour managers and production managers and things like that who are well into their career and working for a big client who is looking for a sound guy or a tour photographer or whatever it is. And just being able to have the reputation or the being able to deliver in a way that a friend is I can absolutely vouch for this person without hesitation and fight for getting you hired is a great feeling, and definitely something that is built over the span of a career, treating people well and being consistent and working hard and all that stuff, which is something that I've always admired about Adam. And there's so many other photographers in the industry too. That's just what they're known for. It's they just work the hardest and they're the best people to be around. And I don't know. I think that creates a lot of opportunities.
Work ethic and a smile go a long way. I've watched Adam backstage or shooting before, and
that's weird. You
can see the way somebody moves around, their work ethic and that smile on their face makes people want to be around them.
Totally.
Well, hell yeah. Well, I'm glad. Yeah. Well, it's good to Thanks for sharing that, Maddie, because it's definitely like people always ask, like, oh, how do I get into it? Like, oh, it's right place, right time. It's good to have like an actual example where like this is an example of right place, right time, because you can't really force those things to happen. It sounds like you just need to keep, like I always think of it in my head. I'm like, we don't know exactly how you're gonna get from point A to point B, but we know that
Right.
not being on your couch and being at a concert is definitely you're more likely to be on a tour. It might be 0.2%, but it's those 0.2%
Totally.
add up. So it's cool that you came from, Des Moines, Iowa, and
what's the old saying? Luck favors the prepared.
I don't know. I'll take your word.
You can set yourself up to be in a position to succeed, and then things can happen. But those things won't happen if you're not in that position to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, sorry.
So
Steve.
No,
go ahead. Got it.
No, go ahead.
All right.
No, I was just going to say. So I'm curious then, looking at the varied artists that you shoot, 30 Seconds to Mars, Paris, Billie, totally different lighting, totally different stage show of what that artist on the show that you're shooting.
I guess it's a lot of like I've been so lucky. Every artist I've ever worked for, I've been like a fan of. My favorite band in the world when I first started touring was this tiny band, The Dangerous Summer, that's would play to like a couple hundred people a night, and they're an incredible band. They're genuinely they were my favorite band in the world at the time, and like being able to like be so into the music and have clients that like I'm a fan of, and like the things that I appreciate about like every artist I've really ever had the opportunity to work for is like their branding and like the world that they build with their music and everything is like so distinguished, and like being able to just like put your weight into that and like find that vision, and whether it's like talking with them, collaborating with them, or just like following the lead of like where all of their like music videos and their promo photos and design, like where all of that is headed, like kind of analyzing that passively and just like bringing that all into like how you make the photos look when they're delivered.
That
makes sense.
Sorry if I seem like removed. I'm basically trying to convince the chat that I'm not doing anything to the video. It's doing it on its own. So I was holding my hands up. Like, Adam, stop doing that. I was like, I swear to God, it's got a mind of its own. And
I wonder if it's a glitch in OBS and the NDI thing that
we'll
we're
figure
using.
it out for next.
It's fun to watch. I mean,
it's mostly Maddie.
I think it's much better this way.
It's way better this way.
Just blame Maddie because it's only him. So God damn it, dude, what are you doing?
Somebody said Zoom being Zoom as usual or as always, but it's actually Skype.
Man.
Does this help?
Yeah. That helps a lot.
And let me say, somebody else said your beard looks good. I agree.
Looks very good, Maddie.
My beard? Oh, I thought we were talking about Adam.
No, dude.
They were talking about Adam.
Oh.
He's deflecting.
Yeah, I think we're talking about Adam.
Oh, well, you're the guest, so,
I'm starting a petition for Adam to take his hat off. If we get 100 people in the chat say hat off, then he's legally obligated to do it.
You guys, it's really weird. I know we have 4 more things to get to, but we got to end this now. So
let's do it.
I don't know what happened,
into the shot.
Let's just have them. I did.
So you want to go into the shot now?
Yeah, we could do that. Let's see. So, well, basically, I just wanted to ask, like, now that we've established, this is how far you've got. How long have you been working with Billie?
I started working with Billie last spring, right before Coachella. Okay. Sorry, time is weird. We've been in quarantine for too long. I don't know how many years it's been since I've been stuck inside. But yeah, last spring.
Okay, cool. So like a little over a year, or almost a year, actually, rather.
Yeah.
That's great. And yeah, it's cool. Thank you so much for sharing this raw image. That's really nice of you. I know it's like very difficult, as I have reached out to photographers too. Not necessarily like it's not difficult on the photographer side, but there's a lot of trust and relationships that go in this industry, and you have to be very specific about what you release and things like that. So we appreciate you finding an image that fit this, and that everything was good to go, and releasing it for us to practice on, because I myself tried to edit it. I know a lot of people that tried to edit it, or did edit it, not tried, and it's really cool. So that being said, let's see, the shot was taken in Portland, Oregon, May 31st, 2019. So it sounds like it was pretty early on to when you started working with Billie, right?
Yeah, it was. It was actually, I was looking at the other photos today from that show, and I'd forgotten, but it was Billie's first U.S. arena show, I think.
Oh wow!
Like headline show.
So big deal.
So it's the first time we ever. Yeah, it was. We were like 4 or 5 days into the U.S. tour, I think, and it had all been like amphitheaters and stuff like that. So this was the first one that was like an inside arena, and that day we like. You can see in the photo the production was really, really awesome, and this is like the first day that we really got to see it full effect in a dark arena, and it was pretty fucking cool.
And what did that feel like? Like being, it looks like you're like right in front of her. Was this like, what part of the set was this? Like, when did this shot happen? Tell us more about like what happened before and after.
Yeah, so like again, this was the first arena show, and all the shows before, the production exists, but you don't get like the isolated lighting, like the production and the lighting the way it's like intended to be in an enclosed space. So I knew that since this was the first arena show, that this was going to be like the first opportunity to really shoot the show in the way that it was like absolutely intended to be.
Mm-hmm.
And Billie is like, I think a lot of people know this, but she's like an amazing like dancer, and like her movement on stage is like just really cool, and really kind of like creates I don't know, almost like a different world and experience. It's like a Disney ride just watching her perform. And this song in particular, again, this was like the fourth or fifth show. So I'd kind of gotten accustomed to like the set list and her movements, and where they were in the set and what she generally would do on stage. Every night was a little bit different, but this part of the set was a song When I Was Older, and she starts this song like the production's like all
mm-hmm.
black, and then it's like you can kind of see it behind her in the shot. There's like a little like white mark,
right over
her shoulder, and that's like this video content of this like lady in this water and like rays of light coming down, and it's like the content is so cool on its own. And Billie would lay down like right in the middle of the stage on the
mm-hmm.
front. And,
I gave you your screen, by the way, Maddie, if you want to zoom in on anything.
Oh, perfect.
I saw you doing it,
like
but nobody
right
else
here.
could see it. So it's like
I just noticed that I looked up at the Twitch. But yeah, right here is like this amazing content. And so she starts this song like laying down, and slowly and like very creepily kind of gets up into this sort of stance. And sorry, let me plug in this hard drive here. I pulled up a couple photos of like the moments this photo happened.
I'm gonna go to my screen.
The moments
and
leading up
let
to
me
it.
know when you're ready on your screen, and we'll pull it back up. How's that sound?
Okay. All right. I think I got them. I think they're here.
So this is like before and after.
Here. Yeah. Well, this is like right before. I have everything leading up to it. So there's this shot of her like getting up for the first time, and I love all of these shots too. This one's great, and you can just see like her movement is so cool.
Ooh, that one's really cool.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
These are all
that
shots that I delivered. I feel like I rarely take consecutive shots, and I usually just one, but this moment was really cool. So I ended up actually editing and delivering all of these photos, but this one in particular, I liked.
Sorry, keep going. I got excited.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing was really cool, but you can see that the content behind her is green, and it's like a really dark setup.
Yeah.
But anyway, I knew that she was going to be laying down and then creepily getting up, and the way the stage was set up is the stage is actually very large. So this is only times where I like knew where exactly she would be during the set and what she would be doing, because she would consistently do this lay down and get up thing. And so I put on my Sigma 35 1.4, knowing that I'd be able to shoot it wide and like create a cool, like get a sharp image and create like cool depth in between her and the content in the back.
Yes, that's great.
And there were obviously the reflections.
This is the 16-35 on a Canon.
Sorry, this is a 35 Sigma, just 35 prime.
Okay.
On Canon 5D Mark IV,
Steve,
I think.
Zooms.
You know, do you use all primes?
No, he doesn't.
No, I use a lot of zooms, mostly 16-35 and 7200 is probably like
I always see with that
75% of the stuff I shoot. Yeah, I love that thing. But I just switched to Sony after.
Yes.
years of Canon. So I just bought a Sony 1635 and Sony 7200, and
Nice.
I'm still learning the ropes on them.
Yo,
but
real
we're
quick
getting there.
before we go
I'm
deeper.
kind of curious, when you were shooting this
just kidding,
burst,
go.
what made you choose to shoot vert instead of horizontal? You know, portrait mode, portrait orientation instead of landscape.
Yeah, so you can obviously not see it because it is shot vertically. Over here, my screen's still up. Over here, you can see the drum shield, which it's kind of like, I don't know what the term is. It's a video game term of like world destroying or whatever. Like it takes you out of the moment a little bit.
World destroying
So
video
shooting
game
horizontally.
Yeah, I got it.
I don't know. Like it takes you out of the moment a little bit. So if I shot it vertically, I would get this little bit of a drum shield, but I wasn't pulling in the entire drummer, and Phineas is over here on the opposite side. And I knew if I shot it vertically, I'd be able to get a lot of negative space up here, and the focus would just really be on Billie and the content and her movement. And there wouldn't be a lot of distraction in the way it would be if it was shot horizontally with all these other elements. And I knew that in editing and processing, I'd be able to take out the drum shield pretty easily. So that's why I shot that one vertical.
Well, you lined it up to that edge too if you needed to really honestly clone it. What I love about this though is if you look, I've never seen Billie live, I need to. But if you look around at shots, even cell phone shots of a Billie show, this tells the story of a Billie show to me, because she's always squatting, sitting, laying down. She's got this thing where she just, you know, gets down low into the song. This tells that story to me, and her looking right down the camera too is just awesome.
Yeah, she's definitely an amazing subject to photograph for a live show, and she like knows how to really create like the moments and even the slow moments. Like it's just creating like so much tension, and like she very much knows what she's doing and how the movement looks, and like how it adds to the song and the show. So it's a lot of fun.
Did you intentionally put her in that dead center in that panel in the back? Because the way you got the leading lines going into her too, composition wise, is spot on. So were you thinking of that as you shot it?
Yeah. So one of the biggest challenges, honestly, of the whole tour was there's this V-shaped like floor here that lights up with content that's incredible and gives these amazing reflections. But right to my left of where I'm taking this photograph is this catwalk, which juts out like 50, 60 feet into the crowd. So it was kind of a lot of times difficult to like get a dead center shot. So the stage was like, there were slight differences every day in like how it was set up and how wide things were and how much space there was to move around. So this first arena show happened to be like an amazing day to shoot it, and I was able to get pretty close to center, and like she's not quite dead on, but I was pretty happy with how centered this turned out.
Yeah, composition wise it works. It just works.
Yeah, thank
guys,
you.
I'm aware Maddie left us, but I don't, like, once I fix it, he's gonna pop back, and I don't know why. So we can just go. Everything just changes, and I can't keep up. I've been trying to mod it.
This is. I'm just enjoying watching your face.
Oh my god!
As on my screen to the right here, I'm watching, you know, us change size, and it's fantastic. It's awesome.
Oh, real quick.
And so somebody commented in here. Who is this? Kiki, I think it is. Said, "Hey, Adam is so stressed."
I'm not stressed. You can't stress me out if you wanted to. I'm with my friends.
That's it.
Before we go forward, there's a few questions I want to ask you, which I thought were good ones from the chat, Matt. We had Hannah De Lorenzo, and I don't know if I messed your name up, but they wanted to know, do you talk to your artists beforehand to get an idea of what type of moment they want captured, or is it all up to you, or what's that relationship like?
It kind of depends on the artist, in my experience from who I've worked with. For Billie, she's like, she creates so many of these moments, knowing that they'll be photographed, but really just does it for the show and what it'll look like for the audience and the fans. And eventually I catch on to those moments, but very rarely does she like specifically request any particular photo. So it's kind of up to my own discretion. I've worked with other artists who like, they specifically want like a photo from a certain angle at a specific part of the show. But Billie's a lot more relaxed in that sense, and it's cool to have, I guess, an artist just kind of entrust that you'll capture the show in a way that like fits their vision and brand and everything.
Awesome. And then, yeah, that makes sense. And then the other question that I thought was kind of on the same thing is, how do you decide how many images to turn in a day? And I know we all have different opinions on this, but I would love to know, like, let's say you're on tour with an artist for, I don't know, sometimes Maddie will tour with artists for months, so he's photographing them every day, and he's, you know, taking hundreds of photos, but how do you decide how many to deliver to that artist each day?
Honestly, I usually see it as like, if I can deliver 20 good photos a day, that's like the bare minimum. Some days, like this show in particular, was just like a great show to shoot. You guys all know, everyone in this chat knows that it's like, sometimes there's great shows and sometimes shows are just really fucking hard to get a good photograph for whatever reason. And on good days, sometimes I'll deliver like over 200 photos. But I really don't have a set number. I just make sure I get like 20 or 30 photos in there, and then yeah, and you know, when a show's great, and I want to like anything that I'm like happy with, I'm like, yes, I would be very happy with this photo being shown to the world. I'll throw in there, and I don't know. I like having more rather than too few.
But how often, like you said, this was a burst, and you showed us the burst that you got, and you said you actually edited and submitted all of those. Is that common, or do most of the time you pick one shot out of a burst that you think is the best one and only submit that one?
Yeah, usually I'll just pick the best or my favorite out of the burst, and hope that I'm picking right.
That's fair. Yeah, it's hard. Like, I don't know about your rule, but in my head, I always think like, none of these can look the same. But then you have stuff like this where it's like a burst. You're like, they all look so cool, and they're all so different, even though they're close together.
Totally.
You're like, how do I decide?
And the key here with this burst, each image stands on its own.
I agree. Yeah, that's what's
like. They could have been different times during the show for all you know. Her position is so different in those shots that each one can stand on its own as a social media post or whatever.
Maddie, you're back on. You're back on your screen if you want.
Oh, sure. I was just gonna fly through.
This is hilarious to watch.
Oh my god, dude! Yeah, it's so hard for me to like. I literally, if I don't, I'm gonna look this up afterwards and see what I did wrong. I have a feeling it has to do with my Skype setting, and as we talk, it's swapping people. But, woo!
It could be a bug in you updated to the new OBS. Could be a bug there, but either way, it's actually. I think the chat room's enjoying it. We'll find out.
I'm having a great time.
All right, me too. Yeah, this is great.
Here's an interesting question, actually, that somebody asked. They said, how many shots are you actually taking during a show?
43.
Yeah. I take 20, I deliver 20. Yeah. You know, they're all perfect. I don't miss. Yeah. No, honestly, it's usually like 2,000 these days. I usually take like 2,000 a day.
Wow, that's a lot. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, most of them are terrible, but it's a game of numbers, I feel like.
We're not going to kill the video entirely because then there would be nothing to be here for. Obviously, we know what Maddie's photo looks like, but we want to see his face. Sorry, that was a response to a question.
Yeah.
You can nix me if it makes it easier.
2,000.
Well, we'll get it ironed out by next time. This is the first one.
Yeah, Maddie, let's do this again next week. Same person, same thing. We'll do it again, but we got the videos to stay as are. You don't even have to talk. We'll just use the old audio. And
Deal.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Well, Maddie, before we move on, is there anything else you want to let us know about this shot that Steve and I kind of failed to ask? Or Steve, do you have any more questions?
No, I'd like to hear what he says to that. Is there anything we missed? Because, like, for example, I didn't realize that was an addition on top of the stage. I was thinking the stage maybe, meaning like you said, this was an actual screen she's standing on.
Yeah, it's like a floor screen that they put together every day in different panels that they roll in. It was really, really cool to shoot. Honestly, like some days it was challenging, and a lot of parts of the set were really tough. As far as like this tour goes, and kind of just shooting Billie in general, she usually has like a clean stage because she loves moving so much, and there's like a drummer and her brother Phineas, and they're both in pretty contained spaces on the stage. So the rest of it is kind of hers for movement. Yeah. And it can provide for some really incredible shots, but it also gets tough too in a setup like this, where after shooting the show 3 or 4 times, you kind of like, it's a pretty enclosed, like you can see the panel on the back and then these side panels.
Yeah.
pretty much extend to the end of the stage. So I'm kind of used to like being able to hide around on things on stage, behind amps or whatever it is. And for this, it was so clean. And there's so much, every square inch of the visible part of the show is covered in content and is important to the show. And you obviously never want to be a distraction. So I really relied on shooting a lot from the pit and shooting a lot on a telephoto. And it was pretty tough to get close to Billie during a lot of parts of the set. So
actually, that leads me into a question I've got to ask before we go into the editing thing.
It's all good.
I've seen video of her performing, and this young lady uses the stage like very few people. I mean, she is all over the place. How did you know to be in this spot? And do you ever, even though you're the tour photographer, say to yourself, man, I wish I was on that side right now?
Oh, every day. And, you always go and happen to see a photo on Instagram that a fan took, and you're like, God damn it, that's better than anything I got tonight.
Yeah, but then you can use it for inspiration. You can be like, I'm gonna go to because you're gonna shoot it again tomorrow. You're like, I'm gonna go try to take that shot tomorrow.
Yeah,
I love when other people.
Yeah,
no, I like that too. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Continue.
No, not at all. But yeah, there's her show's not predictable, but there are a lot of like movements that she kind of choreographs for certain parts of the set that you can kind of rely on happening. So like I mentioned earlier, this one is a part where the song starts and she's laying down and it's all black, and then she slowly and kind of like creepily stands up and crouches like this. So the song before that, I knew this was coming, and I was like in the back of the venue or whatever, and I go up to the front and I take my spot in the photo pit, wait for the song to end, knowing full well what the next thing was going to be, and preparing for this shot in particular.
Gotcha.
Cool.
I just wanted to say before we move on, just to address some. I've been reading chat, but real fast, the chat was like kind of blown away when you said you take 2,000, and you can kind of have your own take on this. But I just want to remind everybody that Vogel isn't shooting like the first 3 songs of an artist. He's with them all day. So this is like you're talking like 12 to 15 hours of shooting from morning to evening, and he's got to deliver images that are a little bit. They're very high quality. So in order to do that, he has to take a lot of photos and then thin it down, because it's unrealistic to think he can take a few and have them all be, those 20 best. So he's free to shoot more, and that's kind of why he does that. And he's got to make different photos every day. So in order to do that, he has to shoot a lot of photos because.
And an analogy for a normal photographer would be if you go shoot a festival and you've got, 30, 40, 50, 60 bands at a Warped Tour, and you shoot every band, even just 3 songs, you're going to end up with 1,500 to 2,000 photos possible. Then it's a full day of
What's
shooting.
Warped Tour?
It's just one artist.
Totally.
Yeah. R.I.P.
I miss Warped Tour.
Warped Tour misses everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. I see you guys have some more questions, and it's not that we're ignoring you, but we're going to get on with this because we're going to do some Q&A at the end. So if you have them, save them. Try not to, we'll get them over there. Try not to ask too fast. We'll try to get to as many as we can. But that being said, Maddie, I know we have...
Rest in peace, Warped.
I know that we have you live editing next, but let's jump and look at just some of the submissions people had, just to show them, and then we'll have you live edit, and then we'll go over your favorites as well. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
So, thank you guys so much for submitting. We have this post on Twitter, and basically everybody responded with their submissions. So, thank you for doing that. In addition to that, we have the same thing kind of on Instagram where people tagged us. So I just wanted to say, I thought though.
And before you bring them up, I apologize, but before you bring them up, I just have got to say, some of the way people saw this shot and interpreted it 180 degrees from each other, and the jobs they did, there's some really good work in there.
Yeah, it's crazy. And there's a lot of people started animating them. Like, keep in mind, there's really no rules here. Our goal is to learn. So there's no bad or better or worse. It's just, okay, what did I learn this time? We're not focusing on right now making the best shot we've ever made. We're focusing on right now, what can we learn so that in the future I can make a better shot than I've ever made before. So as long as you learn something from either yourself or other people, that's great. And the more you interact with the community, the better, because that's what we're here for. So thank you guys for everybody who left comments, all that stuff. This is all the Instagram people that tagged
What tag did you pull up on
Just people
Instagram,
who
Adam?
tag, just people
So
who
people can
tagged
pull it.
me. We didn't like do an actual hashtag.
Okay.
It's just we had people tag Maddie or I, just to kind of keep it simple. And then on Twitter, it's just responses to the thread. And there is no way. Like I used to scroll through all of these. When I had like 300, I would just make a sped up video. But now there's like 600, and I blame Maddie for that. So thank you guys for submitting, whether you're photographers or not. Like these are very cool. And yeah, so we're actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Maddie, but we don't really have a final edit. Like there isn't anything, like you are going to edit this live and you don't really have like something you've done, right? Or have you?
Yeah, well, I did whip up one.
You want your screen?
Which I have on my screen here. Sure.
Cool.
I
got you. Let's do, how's this look? Something like that?
Yeah,
okay, cool.
That's great. So this was the original I'm watching on Twitch on my other computer. And
I like what somebody said here. By using this, they found new people to follow on Instagram or Twitter,
cool.
too.
That's sick.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Let's go community. All right, Maddie, you got the stage.
Cool. Should I edit it?
Yeah, you can edit it. Maybe you want to talk about like you sit down, you look at a photo. Like I don't know about you, and I'm not trying to like tell you, like, but I only know what I do, and I say like, how do I figure out where I'm headed? Like, sometimes I'll like do a few test presets or like see what I can do with the image. What do you do before you even edit it?
Yeah, honestly, so this image is, it almost feels like cheating a little bit because this is probably, I didn't send it in to you because of this specifically, but it's like, it looks pretty fucking good just as it is, like out of camera. Usually my images are like really dark or overexposed or whatever, just because everything's changing so fast.
I'm not the only one.
I thought that was it.
Yeah. But I was really happy with, even these photos leading up to it. Like this one is dark. Like this is something I would probably brighten or change more. But this image that we went with and everyone's been editing looks pretty good out of the box. So I was pretty happy with it. And usually what I do, I guess when editing photos like this, it'll be like the show will finish and all of my 2,000 photos for the day, I'll import them all into my computer, and I want to have the photos delivered that night. So everything's really on a big time crunch, and I would edit it differently than how I probably will today, just knowing that I have even 5 minutes to edit a photo. Usually when I'm editing photos after a show, I'll literally take 10 seconds, 15 seconds to edit a photo. Unless it's something like absolutely incredible or that totally needs to be removed from the photo or there's some big change that takes time to edit. Other than that, I usually blast through stuff really quick. That way I can get the photos in before everyone goes to bed, and Billie can look at the photos that night if she wants to, or wake up the next morning and just like have them ready.
So in other words, you're not editing for portfolio, you're editing for client submission.
Yeah, absolutely.
Different reason.
Totally. And then later on, I'll go back, I'll review all my favorite photos from tour, and I'll give them the time that they kind of deserve, I feel like. But if I was editing, and when I did edit this image originally and post it, there's a lot of stuff that I like fine details and stuff that I really didn't address that I definitely would if I was editing for portfolio.
Would that be like removal of distraction parts or like a little more spot editing?
Yeah, totally. Okay. Right. Totally. And even stuff like if I was going to do a big long edit today, which I don't think I'll do fully, but like a lot of people did in their submissions.
5-10 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But like an amazing effect that a lot of people did was take this reflection and extend it, or take the image of Billie and paste it vertically flipped to the reflection. But for me, I actually don't mind that much this line that breaks up the symmetry a little bit in the image. I don't think it's like too world breaking or distracting or anything like that.
You're talking the edge at the bottom?
Yeah, the edge at the bottom. A lot of times stuff like that will really bother me, and that I really quickly edited here. I cropped it off a little bit, but that's not something that I would necessarily fix, and I especially wouldn't fix it the night of when I'm editing photos after. But for portfolio, maybe, but it's not a deal breaker for me.
Before you edit this one live, I have a question for you. When you're editing for the artist, do you approach your edits more photojournalistically, where you limit yourself to not clone and stuff, or do you treat them more like what they really are, which is marketing for the artist, at which point make the best shot even if you have to clone out a mic stand or something?
Yeah, I definitely treat them as like a marketing tool.
Okay.
And, yeah, I remove objects all the time. I'll, like for something like this, obviously the first things that come to mind are like the drum shields. I will definitely edit out a lot of this stuff in the production. Like you can even see a part of the bed, which is a big part of her set, is you can see it up at the top here, just hanging, and all the trusses.
It's hard to get to.
I'll generally remove all of this. You got to jump really high.
Those shoes are for jumping.
Yeah, yeah. But obviously, there's a couple elements in this photo that are a bit distracting. But even this drum shield one, the way it's lazy. So when I delivered it initially, I didn't even worry about that one.
Yeah, that makes sense. You can't really afford to, and honestly, it's like you would probably spend like such a long time on it, and your client wouldn't know the difference. They would just be like, "Oh, cool." They would just see the
the way it's lined up. You can almost just flip the one on the left over to the right.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Pretty much.
Whoa. Hold your horses. Cool. Well, do you want to
edit?
Yeah, you want to do a little live edit for? No pressure. But I mean, like, you don't have to do like your full portfolio edit, but maybe just like talk us through each step and kind of why you're doing it and what your thought process is, and let's see where we get. Let's see how close we get to your other edit.
Perfect. Let's do it. Well, if I was editing the night of, I use a lot of presets. Like I'll develop presets at the very start of a tour and take those looks. And a lot of times they're based on like, oh, there's red lighting during these songs or orange lighting. And depending on how that affects the image, I'll create a preset that counteracts that. And touring with an artist like Billie, it's the same production every night and it's the same lighting every night. So it's creates a lot of consistency, and you're able to like really develop a couple of looks.
Can we take a moment real fast to give him a round of applause for his well-organized presets? Because mine are called like "Girl at Coachella" and "Person by the Fence" and stuff like that. Like mine are just like that. So everybody give Maddie a round of applause. Is there a clap emoji? Where is this? Oh, here we go.
Yeah, thank you.
Got this. Clap, clap, clap. Good job.
Thank you. Well, I look forward to, I think I'm going to name my next pack Girl at Coachella preset pack.
Oh my God. Got Girl at Coachella, got Diplo on Mountain, Diplo on a Beat. That's, yes.
Diplo on Mountain, that's a great one.
Anyway, continue.
But, yeah, for instance, here's one. Obviously, I happened to be on a Billie tour a couple weeks ago when all of this craziness started. And these are the presets that I had carried over from our work in like late 2019, and I've been editing with those. And in rehearsals, in the first couple shows, are all right here. This photo in particular was taken last year, so it's different lighting, different production altogether. But these are the ones that I had built to use this year, and hopefully at some point I'll be able to use them.
When everything resumes.
Yeah, when the world starts up again. But if I don't have those to rely on, I have other preset packs that I've created on other tours that I've kind of like refined over the years. And when I'm editing after a show, I'll generally scroll through my presets and see what like makes sense. Yeah. Like to me, this preset makes sense.
I'm gonna give people the settings, not the names of them, so they can see the settings. Anyway, continue.
Perfect. Yeah. This one looks good to me. This one I don't think is a good fit for this image.
Yeah.
So kind of just go through that and just blast through a few of them and see what like a good base is to start editing. And generally I'll start editing based on an application of a preset, and then I'll adjust from there.
So kind of use it as
which is definitely
guide.
What. Yeah.
Like a baseline.
Yeah, and it just because it creates a consistency across all of my images that I deliver, and makes it so fast to edit. So a lot of times, like the things that I do to a photo are pretty consistent regardless of whatever preset I'm using. I kind of do the same things to the highlights and the shadows and lifting the blacks just a touch and the grain and all of that stuff. So the presets really help me create consistency and save me a shitload of time every night and allow me to get some sleep.
We're pretend I stole all your presets. And you no longer have them.
Adam stole my presets.
Let's see what you do to those highlights. Yeah, even Girl from Coachella. It's gone, man.
Yeah. So if I was starting from scratch, again, this image is a little bit of an outlier because I think it looks great as a raw image. But generally what I do usually is I'll pull away some of the highlights. That's kind of the first step. And I'll bump up the shadows a little bit and I'll just like see what the detail is that I'm working with and kind of create something that's a little bit flat. So I'm seeing what's in the shadows and seeing what textures exist in the highlights. And I take that kind of as a starting point. Usually I go insane if I don't straighten out whatever the horizon line is on the image. So that would be my next step. Now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that these trusses up here and this drum shield and stuff are a little bit distracting. And I don't want to move on to coloring this image or doing any like additional processing until I can like focus on that and not be distracted by all this other shit in the background. So I might take just like 5 seconds here and try to do a messy edit.
Yeah, that looks good. Maddie practiced this 14 times. That's why he did that so seamlessly.
That came out really good. We lost his audio.
Okay. Let's do my screen for a second until he comes back to us. All right, well, we can look through these things and we'll wait for Maddie to come back.
Maddie, hopefully you can. Oh, he's changing his audio.
We'll let him have his. Yeah, you good? Can I go back to your screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Can you hear me okay? My AirPods. Joe,
RIP AirPod.
All right, let me know if you have any audio issues.
No, we don't have any audio issues. We'll give you your screen back. You've earned it.
Thank you.
And what we were saying, if you didn't hear us, was great job on the quick clone.
Thank you. Yeah, just cloning out all this shit's really quick. I don't know how clean this will all be, especially once we get to this edge down here. But let's see what we can do in a matter of a few seconds.
We just got, this is more fun to watch than Tiger King, so keep it up, Maddie.
This is Tiger who?
Right?
That corner's a little messy, but I can live with that.
Yeah, for the sake of it.
Now moving on to these trusses up here.
Nice.
There are like
so people, this is what you can do in Lightroom that you don't need to go to Photoshop
and
for.
This is what you can also do on a Sunday night with your friends. Watch Maddie and clone.
Yeah, if you're very, very popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I generally try not to take anything into Photoshop unless it's something that is just like too much for. Yeah.
Somebody said in the chat, "Why is my clone tool or my spot removal tool never that perfect?"
You need Maddie's magical skills.
Yeah.
He's got the touch.
I don't know about that.
Man. He's got the touch.
I don't know about the touch, but I keep my feathering down to like 0. Really, I find it still produces.
You're not healing. Yeah,
clean.
Good.
You're doing hard edged on these? You are.
Yeah. It's there's no feathering, but it's still, I guess, naturally in Photoshop or in Lightroom, it seems to give it a little bit of leeway on the edge.
I think it's because it's heal, not clone. Is that correct? I think that's why.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so it's using intelligence to blend.
Yeah, it went to college.
Perfect. I did too, but I studied the wrong thing. So I like this. I honestly, usually when I deliver and post images, I crop them. And I think I like the composition of this image a little bit better without all the negative space at the top. So I'm going to crop it to a 4:3.
Cloning for nothing up top, Maddie. What's going on, man? God.
I know, but you got to over.
You got to start with the canvas. All right. I'm sorry. I'll let you work. I apologize. I'm excited. I'm
No,
excited.
no. I want the Elmachias input. So this feels fairly clean. Like it's not perfect, but this is a good place for us to start looking at colors and looking at. I think I want it just a touch flatter, so I'm lowering my contrast just a tiny bit, and that feels like a good base to where I'm really going to put in some legwork, which is in my tone curves. And this is like, I think anyone who does a lot of editing knows how powerful your tone curve tool can be, especially in Lightroom. It's kind of like how everything happens, and you have such control over coloring and shadows and highlights.
That's where the magic happens, man.
Yes, this is it. So usually what I do, and it depends on the image, but I'll lift my blacks a little bit. So I just take this little indicator in the bottom left, where that's, I think maybe everyone knows this, but that's where you can control the level of your blacks. So it's taking this pure black and it's moving it up towards like a soft gray. So that's generally where I start, and I'll adjust that later on once I'm done fucking around with the rest of the curves. An S curve is a really popular curve shape that I think a lot of people are probably also familiar with. So that's kind of where I start. And what's happening here is I'm making the highlights brighter and I'm making the shadows darker by creating this S shape. I feel like I want my mids maybe just up a touch. And I'm just kind of going just by look here and seeing what I like and what's working for the image and what's not working so much. So this feels a little bit saturated, but the tones are feeling kind of nice, like where I might want them at the end. From there, I'm going to go look at my colors here, and I'm going to go into my red channel. I'm going to do another S-curve. And this might start looking goofy until a little later on when I'm finessing all of this, but I'm going to try to create a pretty similar S-curve in all of these channels to begin with. So I started in red, went to green, now blue. And when I'm creating a preset, or if I'm really doing a portfolio edit, I'll make these S-curves will be exactly the same. These seem similar enough to go off for this edit. So the way it's looking right now, I think this image is just like a little more blue than I want it to be, especially in the shadows. So I'm gonna go back to my blue channel. If you can see here, if I go up here, my shadows are really blue. If I go down, they get a little less intense. And really, I'm just kind of goofing around here and finding colors that I like and I find appealing.
I like watching you goof around with images. This is cool.
I love this. This is great.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's learning anything, but what I'm learning is that I really have no strategy here. It's really just me fucking around with these S-curves.
I mean, you say you don't have a strategy, but that in itself is your strategy, even though it seems rather guerrilla. Yeah. But and people are learning stuff. I know you can't read the comments and edit because that would be hard, but people are saying, wow, I didn't know about this stuff. And just to interject, this is classic Lightroom. I don't know about you guys, but I use classic as well. I don't use the mobile one. It feels like a Photoshop Elements version of Lightroom.
Yeah, CC I don't like. Classic is, if you want power and all the features, you're going to go classic generally, yeah.
Yeah, classic is the way. I tried to give CC a go for 5 minutes, and I like how slick it looks, but the tools just aren't in the places that I want them to be, I feel like.
And somebody said that they'll be to every one of these because they are learning.
Amazing.
Maddie will too.
Well, I hope that, yeah, I will definitely be here, and hopefully the next person has more of a strategy than chaos. But
are you split toning?
Yeah, so generally what I move to now is
I'm glued, man. I'm glued to this. It's fascinating to me to see what people do to create.
Steve doesn't edit much. If you can tell by his lighting and his setup right now, it's pretty much perfect straight out of camera.
Yeah, well, it's right out of the camera.
Anyway, keep going. Sorry to interrupt you, Maddie. You got the microphone.
No, not at all. But I love toning my images, and I introduce a lot of color into them that way. So I thought it'd be nice if these highlights were just a tiny bit warm, just like the slightest bit warm. And then for the shadows, I'm just going to see what kind of looks okay. I'm not crazy about it super red. I don't like it super green. But even if it's really subtle here, this blue is kind of nice. I think I like that.
I like kind of nice. This looks great.
Yeah, it looks kind of nice.
Well, and one of the reasons I love split toning, and the reason that I don't know many people that do, but I'm colorblind. Split toning to me, because of that panel, I don't have to worry if I even know what the colors are. I can drag to what. So I personally love split toning. I just didn't know a lot of other people used it.
Steve, you're not alone. There's a whole section dedicated to it. This is a very crucial part of editing, Steve.
It is.
We got a section for it. This isn't dehaze. It's not thrown at the end. All right, sorry, continue.
I'm glad it's universally loved. I feel less crazy. I genuinely feel so experimental when I'm editing, because there's so many of these tools that can they do like 20% of the job that I want them to. And if you could really master them and really fine tune them and take your time with them, they could get you 100% of the way. You can introduce.
They're all ingredients.
Into an image the same way you would split toning, by just adjusting your curves layer and your reds. But the split toning is such a shortcut, and it just saves so much time. And I think I like to look at an edit as the grand total sum of all sorts of shit piled on to each other in an appealing way, rather than trying to just figure it all out in tones or figure it all out in split toning.
It's like lasagna.
Yeah, it's a big fat lasagna.
Yeah. We get the noodles and the sauce and the cheese.
Yeah, split toning is the noodles.
All right, perfect. Sorry, that was my friend.
So now,
it wasn't me.
Now I'm looking at this, and I think I'm just going to kind of blow it all up a little bit. All of these colors that I just made. This feels a little intense for my work. I think a lot of times I'll keep things a little more subdued. The color's a little more subdued. So I'm actually going to take some saturation off this thing, and a little bit of vibrance too, which is just going to kind of take the edge off of all of these colors that I just made happen. I think I like how that looks. It's pretty nice. There might be a little too much contrast in there for me, so I'm going to go back and I'm just going to adjust my contrast a little bit. These highlights seem a little hot, so I'm going to take those down just a touch. The shadows look pretty good. I'm just going to see what this looks like. I think I'll probably leave them right back where they were.
This is crispy. This looks crispy.
This
is a crispy
This
photo.
is nice and crispy. Yeah, and
how about that clarity slider?
Yeah, I almost never touch the clarity slider.
I saw you jump right over it and didn't even speak about it.
Yeah, I've had too many traumatic experiences with it when I first started editing concert photos. I'm sure many people have.
I just take it out sometime. I'm like, all right, we got let's do less of this.
I wish you could just remove it from Lightroom altogether. That'd be beautiful.
You could just do this when you edit. Just kind of cover it.
Yeah. Don't look at it. But I sometimes mess with dehaze a little bit, which again is obviously can be taken to the utmost extreme.
I love it.
Is it looks cool like this in a designy way. But if I'm delivering this image to a client, honestly, I would put a touch of this in, but try not to go overboard with it. But that's just me, and obviously everyone edits differently and however they want to, and that's the beauty of it all. But I think that feels good to me.
Let's get a little before and after. Let's see what you did. You got the little. Let's see. Hit us with the before and after.
Yeah. Let me reset this one.
You know you can hit that little backslash. It'll do it.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh no. There you go.
Nice.
Ooh, that's good.
Gives it kind of a, ethereal type feel.
Yeah, it's a little bit dreamy, which is kind of, I don't know. The whole time when I'm editing, I kind of think about how that moment felt and how the song feels, and
dreamy.
how it can all kind of stay consistent.
See,
yeah.
what are two other words you use to describe your goals? So we've got dreamy. What else would you say your goal images are?
Dreamy. Honestly, I tried it in a very OD way. I love film colors and
What's OD?
like definitely not film colors, but like film colors times 10.
You can make fun of me for not knowing stuff, but I'm here to learn. So let's go.
So you're thinking of, in your head, you're thinking of emulating old film?
Yeah, kind of. Not like any specific stock or anything, but there's just like that look,
right.
especially of like lifted shadows and kind of just unprocessed scans and stuff like that. And I think that looks like, to me, feels like really kind of nostalgic and really personal, and not like too clean or not too crispy and not unapproachable. It's like a kind of like more of a like approachable moment, I guess, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm
like
getting
an approachable lasagna.
Here, but it's
I see you've got a custom white balance. Do you have a rule of thumb you do with setting your white balance?
Yeah, I move it until it looks nice. Is my
there
rule.
You go.
Yeah, I honestly, adjusting my white balance, my tint, and my temperature, I'll do that like all throughout the editing process when I'm on an image, which again is like so counterintuitive. I just built all of these colors based on one white balance, and now I'm again kind of just blowing all of that up. But until you try it, you really never know what you're going to find.
But you're not using the eyedropper, though.
Yeah, I'm not using the eyedropper. Okay. I never. Very rarely when I'm shooting live images am I even thinking too much about skin colors or tones looking natural. Obviously, there's so much artificial lighting that goes into it. You're never going to get like, not never, but in rare situations will you get a natural looking photo. And for this, I'm really like kind of trying to create a whole different atmosphere, I guess, than what the reality is. So I never get too caught up in skin tones or trying to match white balance in camera. I shoot auto white balance when I'm shooting shows, and I guess it's not a huge consideration for me, but I think it's just based on what my editing style is and the final images I deliver, is that it's just not crazy important for my particular style of work.
Well, that's great. It sounds like you have really identified, what makes you as an artist, what your values are, and what your goal is to give to your client, and that's worked for you this long, and there's no reason why it would stop working for you. So I know you don't give yourself too much credit, and you're just kind of saying, I don't really know what I'm doing. But I think you're just so good at doing what you're doing that you just don't realize all that you are doing, which is a good place to be. And
I agree.
A lot of people,
I mean, to me, I saw a process. It may be coming off the top of your head, but there was a clear, intentional flow and process of what panel you went to when and how you approached it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I guess it's maybe a little bit of organized or step-by-step experimenting, but I guess it's really just about what image you end up with at the end. So I have my methods, and I really just go, and I know what the tools do, and I'll keep going back to them and revisiting them until I'm happy.
Well, I just want to say that, Matt, this is Maddie. This is awesome because it's cool to see how you make all this stuff. And, he spent a lot of time, hours making presets that, are good, like you said, a good starting place, or if you want to try them on your photos, you can. And he actually has them for sale. It's just MattyVogel.com, right? Maggie Vogel photo.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to check those out, go for it. And like you saw, he's very organized. They're very thought through, and although it took him some chaos to get to them, they are definitely intentional by all means. So check that out. Support friends if you have. Support it if you want, and see what he's got. But
and we've got a question in the chat. What are your default settings when you shoot a show?
So it kind of depends on the situation. Yeah, full auto. I don't even look at the camera.
P for professional.
Yeah, I just hold it up. There's the one button. Right? You just press the one button and point it in the right direction. And that's why I take 2,000 photos. Yeah, but generally I'll shoot full manual. For this shot, you can see my settings. 320th of a second shutter speed. I shot it at 1.4. I love shooting wide open when I'm on primes, just because it creates so much separation. And that separation, I think, lends to getting a look that's like more stylized than shooting a scene like this where everything's in focus. Even in this image, you can tell that there's depth, and she is sharp, but the background is far behind her, and creating that depth, I think, adds a lot to a lot of my images.
Don't give Maddie a 1.4 lens and expect him to shoot at anything higher or lower, rather.
Yeah, the baby's staying at 1.4. That's it.
Yeah.
But generally, I'll shoot when I'm on a prime, wide open, and when I'm on a zoom, definitely wide open, 2.8, just because there's so little light shooting a lot of these shows, especially a lot of the clients that I've had have the most amazing shows, and they're incredibly dark, which can be tough to shoot. But when I'm shooting primes or shooting zooms, I definitely shoot wide open, and I keep my shutter speed. When it's really dark, I'll bump it down to 320 of a second, like this shot is. But I rarely ever go lower than that. I've found that even just like my camera shake of my movement, or the artist moving at all, anything slower than that I see in a lot of my photos that I regrettably have to throw away, that there's some motion blur or things like that. And I really only deliver photos that are pretty tack sharp, or try to whenever possible. So when I'm shooting, my shutter speed is usually 320th of a second or faster. I'm wide open, and I'm adjusting my ISO based on however the scene needs to be lit. And I do it manually, just because I don't like relying on metering very much and finding out what my ISO settings should be, because I feel like I know the show generally better than my camera knows the show, and
Whoa.
I know when like a moment is coming, and sometimes I don't want it to be exposed properly. Sometimes I want to underexpose or overexpose, knowing what the scene is and what the production is. And so I really do everything manual, and sometimes it bites me in the ass, but usually it saves my ass.
And before we get over to the top three, or the photos that you like that other people did, Steve, I just wanted to say that we've talked about this before, and kind of goes into what Maddie just said, is that when people see a good photo, they don't really notice. Doesn't matter if it's overexposed, doesn't even matter if it's out of focus sometimes, it doesn't matter how much noise is in it. If it's a good moment, it's a good moment, and people won't care what is going on there technically.
No, I mean, I always use the example, like people always worry about noise, and I'm like, first of all, nobody's going to zoom into 100% on your photo.
Hell no.
If the most iconic photos of the last 50 years are full of noise, and no one goes, oh, Muhammad Ali standing over Sonny Liston, it's full of noise. No,
Right.
These are iconic shots. Stop worrying about the little stuff and tell the story. It's the moment. It's all about that moment.
Hell yeah. Respect.
Totally.
All right, Maddie, I switched out of your screen, but we got you massive on this other screen. Okay, let me know when you're ready to go over those edits, and we'll get you back on there. I know you're fixing your audio and stuff. But...
Cool.
Yeah, it looks like he's switching back to his AirPods and video going huge again.
How did you know?
Steve's next door.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
behind
looking
you.
through my window. Cool. I've got my
All right,
favorite
back
picks.
to Maddie. Do you have? Okay, cool. So like maybe just tell us.
Watching the video still cracks me up.
Tell us about these, Maddie.
Yes. So this one is from K Dargs on Twitter, who is another amazing Midwest music photographer from North Dakota, I think. One of the Dakotas. But I followed her work for a while, and she does really cool stuff with color, and really takes things to an extreme and experiments, and just like takes like whatever the raw image is, she'll really take like whatever color she wants it to be, and she'll make it happen. Like she doesn't always read off of like what the image should be, but it's like what she wants it to be, which is cool, I think, and really gives her work, makes it stand out and makes it very stylized. And I think she gets hired a lot because people see her work for the colors and the distinct style, and they want it for themselves. And but I thought this was a cool take on that image, which, you know, as you remember from the raw, is like overwhelmingly blue and aqua and a little bit of green. And I thought she did a cool job of it's like a fairly straightforward crop and some removal of elements. Like you can see she got rid of the drum shield in the bed up there and straightened everything a little bit. But I love what she did with the highlights and introducing the pinks and the purples.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was a really
good,
appealing
man.
image.
She's good. Very good.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Wow. Steve, well, I'm not trying to interrupt you. I'm just saying, Steve, before you go on, do you have anything you want? First of all, Steve has a catch line that I love. I don't know if he knows it because it's probably normal in his world.
I do?
Yeah, it goes into the maker. Let's.
Oh. No, to the maker. I think the maker did a great job.
To the maker.
No, what I love
great.
about it is they stepped out of reality, right?
Yeah.
Their attitude was this picture says something to me, and I'm gonna help it say those same things to other people.
Wow.
So she took this picture and told her own story with it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's great. I think that's like one of the ways that music photographers can get an edge, I guess, in this industry. Is it's one thing to like take an amazing photo, and obviously that outlasts and overpowers almost anything. But if you can take photos every day and deliver like a specific, distinct image that's unlike other photographers, I think that can go a long way for you.
Yeah, I agree.
Perfect. All right, let's do the next one.
Perfect. This one is by Tim Kayam. I don't know Tim personally, but I've followed his work for a little while, and I thought this edit was really cool as well.
It's like snow.
I love this one.
Yeah, very like, again, I think this is just my personal tendency is I love, in the way I shoot, I love like creating a world or enhancing the world that exists and the things I see in the image. And I think he did a great job doing that on this one. He took, obviously this is still like a blue leaning image, but I love what he did with the shadows and adding the browns, which is not something that I would have, thought of myself. But I think it looks really cool. I really like the kind of split tone approach on this one, and the fuzziness of it and the grittiness of it, and I think it kind of transports you to
like a snow queen.
I know, right?
That's the thing. Bringing those highlights below her, and making that so bright makes her seem like she's almost floating there. And I love actually the fact that they left stuff up between the truss.
Yeah, it looks cool.
In this particular story, that really helps set the fact that it's an actual stage, as opposed to if they took it out.
I just put my hand over the top to see what it looked like without that. It's wild. I like that they left it there too.
Yeah. Nice job.
All right, let's see that last one.
Yeah. All right, this last one.
It's tiny.
I think this is the first one that I saw with this approach.
Ooh.
But we were all talking about this earlier. We all love this take on the image. Just to mirror Billie entirely. Obviously like changed the entire composition of the whole image, and it's definitely like a cool, unique take on the photo, and mirroring it and cropping out everything above and all the content screens and even the lighting at the top, I think makes it like an entirely different image. My heart tells me that a little piece of my heart says I wish this drum riser was cloned out, but it's definitely not the end of the world. And I loved a lot of the submissions that had this approach and mirroring. This was, I think, the first one that came in, but a couple people ended up doing it.
What was this person's name, Vogel?
And there were a lot of cool
takes.
takes.
Make sure you say their name.
Yes, this is Jeremy Sobokan, I think.
I agree with you on the drum shield. In fact, this is so symmetrical vertically. I would love to almost see that left side flipped over and duplicated to the right side and made left to right symmetrical. I think that would look awesome. I actually think if you even brought the sharpness down a little bit on the reflection, it might be kind of interesting, but just really well done.
Yeah, just kind of enough to make it look like it's not duplicated and it is a reflection would be a really good step to take this. Just so even if it's like dehazing at 10% and throwing like a little bit like something just to be like, oh, they didn't just flip it, even if they actually did. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, he's throwing a gradient on right now. Great idea.
Yeah.
Try going darker with it, actually. Try going a little darker with it.
All right, now.
But I mean on the dehaze.
All right, now try to make it I don't know. I was trying to come up with something impossible, and I can't think of anything. Yeah, that looks wild.
Yeah.
It does
Anyway,
look like
a really
anime.
cool image.
It looks like I feel like she should have a sword
Yeah,
in her hand.
you're right. It's a superhero landing. Like she came from the sky and landed.
3-point land. You know, they do 2 feet in one hand. It's a pretty good one. A 3-point land.
Yeah.
Except she had to hold the microphone, so she couldn't do it.
No, Jeremy, I love what you did
job,
with
dude.
it, man.
Very cool.
Okay, cool. Well, that pretty much sums up that. I just want to say before we go on to Q&A, if you guys have questions, well, before I go on, do you guys have anything else to say, or am I good? You good? I'm good?
No, I just want to tell him thank you for letting people edit his image.
Well, yes, go for it, Steve. Oh, that's all. That was it.
That's it.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you,
Everybody,
guys.
yeah, thank you so
Yeah, it
much
was
for
amazing.
doing this. Basically, before Maddie gets out of here, we're going to do some questions. If you guys have any, leave it. Try not to spam your question, because obviously there's a lot of people here who want to get to as many as we can. So just ask your question. I do have some of you ahead of time that'll go through that submitted some during the RSVP. That being said, after we're done with the questions, we'll have a moment to leave your Instagram handle so you guys can all find each other on the internet. And we are going to do this again next week. So I have a different photographer. He or she are going to release the image probably tomorrow. We're working on it. And hopefully in the future we'll have more of a voting process. But we're working on that, and we'll do this again next week. And maybe Maddie will come and join us or something. Who knows? I know he's not going anywhere because we're staying around. But okay, so so these questions are for Maddie or about Maddie's image. Steve, why don't you check the chat and see if you find any?
I've got one already.
For it, Steve, and make sure you say
so,
what it is.
One of them was, do you shoot with one? Do you only shoot stills or shoot video? Because a lot of tour photographers now are multimedia stuff. And what do you carry on you? Are you a 2-body shooter? Do you wear a think tank belt? What are you using?
And before you answer, Steve, make sure you say who asked the question. Do you have their name on there?
That's going to take glasses.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Is it PQ Multimedia?
Perfect. That's all we need, just so that we know who's asking. All right, go for it, Vogel.
Thank you for the question, PQ Multimedia. I shoot a little bit of video. It's definitely not my forte. There was a point like maybe 3 or 4 years ago where a lot of the jobs that I was getting hired for and asking to refer people for, they were looking for like just a videographer and not a photographer, or someone who could do both. And I was capable but not confident in my skills as a videographer. So that's something that I kind of ended up learning. I'm definitely not the best in the world at it. I feel much stronger as a photographer, but I'm learning a lot and I practice a lot of video. For Billie, we don't have a videographer on tour. There's been a documentary crew with us for a while that shot some stuff for them, but I shoot a little bit of video for Billie sometimes, like throw a camera on a gimbal, and occasionally she's had me hop up on stage for like really cool parts of the set, like shooting really wide stuff, and that's been really amazing to capture some of that. And the show's so cool. It's kind of easy mode to take amazing videos of. But a lot of times when I'm with an artist, I'll be doing both, shooting video and photo pretty regularly. When I'm shooting stills, for instance, like when I'm on tour with Billie, I just switched to Sony. So I have a Sony a7R III on my right hip, and on my left hip, I have a Sony a7 III. And I love shooting video on Sony. I don't love shooting video on Canon, and I used to be Canon until just the start of this year. So when I was shooting Canon, I'd have a Mark III and a Mark IV on each of my hips, and then have a Sony that just sat on a gimbal like backstage. And whenever I wanted to shoot video, I would go and grab that and either shoot it on the gimbal or put it in my bag and shoot on a long lens or whatever the video situation was. But if I'm just shooting stills, I'll have a camera on each hip, usually with a 16-35 on it, on my left one. And then on my right one, I'll have a 7200 on whatever camera body that is. And that's like kind of my default position. I've used a couple different like Black Rapid straps, but I use one now that has straps like over both shoulders. I had one that carried 2 cameras that like went sideways, but that one kept falling off. So I've got like the one that goes over both shoulders.
Yeah, double strap.
On my sides. Yeah, and I like that one a lot. That one's been great.
Woodcrest Mafia asked, back button focus or shutter button?
For sure, back button focus.
Yeah.
That changed my life.
Yeah.
I was
That's a big one.
so annoyed trying out back button focus like the first day that I did it. Like the first show that I shot, I was like, this sucks. I was like, I'm never going to stick with this. But after like the second show, I was like, why did I ever do anything
My whole life
differently?
has changed.
You can't go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I'm sure most people in this chat know what it is, but in case you don't, it's like you can set up a button on the back of your camera to focus while you are like moving the camera around and while you are taking photos. So you can press the shutter button and be focusing at the same time.
Yeah, basically,
which
it
is
puts
just
them in
like
separate buttons.
a total game changer.
Or you can pre-focus using back button focus, and then when you press the shutter, if you've recomposed, it doesn't refocus.
I think that's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. But it's definitely amazing. I never shoot any other way anymore. I don't know how I survived without it.
Well, I'm glad you're on the back button focus team now. Good.
Payone2033 said, where can we get the raw image? And you can always get the raw image at the website.
RawEditingChallenge.com.
Adam, you want to give the website out for this?
RawEditingChallenge.com. It's super straightforward because that's what we're doing. We try to keep it simple.
Yep.
Let's see. I know this is kind of like a pretty wide shot, but Marissa wants to know, what's the craziest thing you had to do to get the shot? And I guess you can define what the shot is, but I'm assuming it means something crazy.
That's a good, I have a good answer. One time,
Sorry, you just went huge.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you went huge.
That's good. There was one time when I was working for. Oh, I am huge. I was working for 30 Seconds to Mars, and Jared Leto, the singer of 30 Seconds to Mars, he is like really passionate about photography and like the images that I get during the shows. So it's amazing to have someone care that much. But there was a point, he was doing this song, The Kill, where there's a point in the song where sometimes, like very rarely, he'll like get down on one knee and hold the mic like this at the front of the stage and do a big scream into it. And like every time I'd set up for that shot during, like every night I set up for that shot during the show, the whole tour, and he like never did it because I don't know why, but I was like so annoyed every night. I was like, Jared, please, can you do that? I really want that shot.
Man. Do that thing you do.
Yeah, I know. And I was like shooting behind the drummer on stage, like hiding behind the drummer, taking photos, and he's like got this awareness of everything that's going on at all times on stage, and he's doing the kill, and he looks at me and he points to like the front of the stage, and I immediately knew what it meant. But the stage, and I had like 10 seconds to prepare. I was like, this is impossible. Like to get off this stage, you had to like run all the way to the back of the stage, down the stairs, and then all the way around and like through security to get to the front. And I was like, there's no way this is happening. So I basically just wild carded it, and I went straight off the stage, and it was like 10 feet tall. And I just grabbed both my cameras at each hip, and I just jumped off and
ran over by the wings to like sneak by and jump down.
He pushed Jared out of his way.
Yeah.
It was a very weird stage setup where it was like in the middle of the arena. Like they had,
waved at him.
There was, see Jared. So it was like surrounded by fans, but I just like, the whole stage was like surrounded by fans on all sides. It was like in the middle of the arena
or something.
So you weren't really hidden anywhere. Yeah. And I just jumped off the whole thing, and I don't know what I did to my foot, but it still hurts to this day. My big toe still hurts to this day. And I did shot. It wasn't worth it though. It was too dark.
All right. Well,
Maria Garcia B Photo says, just a quick out of topic question. It's 3 a.m. in Spain. Thank you for staying up. Is this going to be saved somewhere so that they can watch it later?
Yeah, it'll be on the Twitch, and then I got to do YouTube stuff, so I'll figure it out. But we're just doing it right now, and we'll get it up. But yeah, the clips will automatically go to my Twitch. If you go there right now, you can see us testing out the audio that I haven't deleted yet, but they'll be up there, and then hopefully YouTube eventually.
And here's a really good one, actually. It's Mario Temez, I guess it is. I want to know how you deal with purple and red lights on stage. There's obviously shots you know, where when I'm shooting red or purple lights, and it's like, well, that's part of the story and it really works here. There's other times that I want to correct it. What's your feeling on those crazy colored lights most photographers hate?
Red lights, I've come to like not mind so much. Usually what I do when I'm like editing a photo that's heavy on red lights is I turn them to orange, and that feels nicer to me and like easier to deal with. I haven't found the cure for red lights, but I found how to like live with them and feel like I can get good photos even during red light. However, purple lights can go to hell. I feel like honestly, there's parts of sets where they've had like one song that's like purple lights, and I've never like been one to like take a breather during the set. I'm always like trying to set up for the next thing and like whatever I can do next. And after shooting a purple song like once or twice on a tour, I kind of just go and grab a water and get ready for the next
just
thing.
use your flash, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I should just pop
dark
the
purple lights.
actually
You got a
leads
flash.
to-
It'll help people see what's going on. It'd be great. It'd be great.
That actually leads to Matty Hecken. Matty Hecken smokes. Sometimes you'll have a show multiple nights in the same city. There's pressure obviously there if you're doing 3 nights in LA to make each the product you create from each show different. How do you make the same show in the same city different each shoot?
Yeah, that's always tough. And honestly, that's one thing I talk to a lot of other tour photographers about a lot, just because it's, even if it's not the same city on a lot of these like bigger tours, arena tours and stuff like that, where all the venues really feel the same. Like the days really just feel the same. And I don't know. I've been to a lot of arenas in a lot of cities around the world that I just don't remember at all because it feels like every other day. Both,
if you've been inside your house,
I guess that in the shows
for Corona, you know the feeling.
Yes, you definitely know the feeling well. But just trying to mix it up, and I don't know. I think it's always a constant challenge to just try to find new angles and new ways to shoot. And when you're a tour photographer, I think days like that, and when a tour really starts getting stale and you feel like you've gotten all the shots there are to get, which of course is not possible, but when you start feeling uninspired or overwhelmed by everything looking really repetitive, it's a good time to like really try to focus on taking behind the scenes photos or portraits or other things that the artist can use and benefit from and can expand your portfolio. And those are definitely things that when I get frustrated with the live images, whether it's shooting in the same city 3 nights in a row, which is the same exact show, or not, if it's just a tour where everything looks the same. I think a lot of like expanding the types of images that I can try to get every day is kind of the saving grace on that.
That's great. See,
so PQ Multimedia had a question that I think almost every music photographer struggles with, because I've had shows where there's 70 people in a pit. Mm-hmm. How do you separate yourself? So
walk away.
The way Maddie shoots, how do you separate yourself from everybody else that's shooting, trying to get those shots? What do you do to stand out?
Yeah, it depends on how crazy the pit is sometimes, but there have been times where I've shot shows where there's just so many photographers that I can't get anywhere near the stage, and that's when you kind of do the shitty thing of being lucky to be in the tour photographer position where I'm like, okay, I can't get anywhere near the stage. There's no way I'm getting a good photo. I either focus on fan photos and I take photos of fans reacting to the show in the front row and like peripheral like B-roll shots like that are they're like valuable shots and can be some of the most amazing photos from every show, and just pointing your camera in the opposite direction of everyone else, or you can like elbow your way in and hope you can get like a really good shot, and or you can kind of be a tour photographer dick and like go backstage and shoot from a different angle and wait until the 3 songs are up. And sometimes that's what I do, and it's kind of a roundabout solution, but there are moments, like especially with Billie's show, she's got this moment at the start of the show where all of last year she would open the show by walking up these stairs. If you like, when you look at this raw image, there's that back panel, and there's these stairs that lead up to the back panel, and she just appears out of nowhere, walking up these stairs, stands in front of the back panel, and everything is just white. And she just stands there, and there's no music, there's no nothing. It's just silence and like tension, and the moment is so cool. And then she cocks her head, and then she starts jumping right as the music kicks in. And like that moment is like one of the best moments, or was one of the best moments in the set that we shot last year, over and over again. And that's like obviously a moment where there's a lot of people in the pit, because it's the very start of everything. And that that would be a time when I would always be in the pit, because that's not enough. You can't shoot that from another angle. Like it has to be the symmetrical, straight on. Like you just lose the whole environment if you're shooting that particular moment from backstage or wherever. It's just not the same. So for a lot of shows last year, when the first song started and there were 100 photographers in the pit, I would just go right towards the center, knowing that my shot had to be symmetrical, and I'd go as close as I could. And sometimes I'd end up like in the middle of the barricade, like way back, just scrunched up against the crowd. And I was like, this is just where I gotta be, because I know what's coming, and I really shot every night. So I guess it's situational, but I don't know. Sometimes you pull the shitty tour photographer card and go
you
backstage.
said it was shitty. Yo, it's not shitty. I think like I know you referred to it as shitty, but I think the underwhelming theme of this and everything you've done is you don't have a way you do everything. You just have a situation and then you handle it. And I think that's what's the main takeaway from this is like there's a way to handle it. The shitty thing to do would be to kick every other photographer out. That would be shitty, but that's not what you do. You make it work, you let them have their time, and then you take advantage of the resources you have and that are given to you to get your job done. But that just because you're doing it that way, like I would say, or very strongly say, that it's not shitty and nothing you're doing falls in that category. I think you operate very correctly. And that being said, it's cool to hear how you kind of handle ththese day-to-day things that, you know, most people probably think, oh, he gets access to all these things. It's probably very easy. He can do whatever he wants. Yes, but at the same time, you go from being restricted to being like, okay, I can shoot 3 songs, to not being restricted at all and say, everything is my fault. If I don't get my image, it's my fault. So now he has to use those resources to make it happen.
Yeah,
and like from the client's end, like if he goes to Billie and he says, the pit was full, I didn't get any shots, she's going to be like, what? That's not how this works. So he's just making it work given the circumstances. And so give yourself credit there. You're doing great. You're not a shitty person.
Thanks, Adam.
Sorry if I talk fast. Anyway, Steve, did you see any other questions in there?
Let's see. Where was the one? Oh, what are your? I just.
I got it. You want that one? All right, we have DVD Freeman.
DVD Freeman. Yeah, go with that one.
Organizational strategies when shooting so many photos every day, and I guess that could. They didn't specify, but I'm sure it has to do with specifically hard drives, and then maybe just life in general.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, I did a deep dive into like my whole workflow last year and a half ago. That's on my website if you want like all the nitty gritty.
I'll get it.
I think it's just called Music Photographer Workflow or something like that. It's on my blog. But really the like key to everything is just to stay absolutely fucking organized and don't get lazy. There's like so many times where like, Lightroom decides that it wants to like import photos folder instead of my specific folder for that day of the tour. And instead of just like, being like, I'll fix this later. It's really just like staying on top of everything and making sure that all of your files are where they belong. Otherwise they're going to get lost and you're going to regret it. But as far as like hard drives and stuff, I shoot every day. I import everything into my internal hard drive on my computer. I'll edit everything internally and then deliver everything. And then, for the next like day, as long as there's space on my computer, I'll continue shooting and importing internally. And every day or like other day, I'll back things up onto 2 separate hard drives, like external hard drives, and I'll keep one in my backpack where my computer is, and I'll keep one like in my bunk on the bus. So they're in 2 separate locations, and if my backpack gets swiped, I'm still fine.
If you steal backpack, guys, make sure your next step is the bus. Next stop is the bus. Yeah. You got to get both copies.
Head straight to the bus.
and Ruby and some guy named El Macias posted that link in the chat. So if you're looking for the link to that blog post, it's there. And one of the things with any organization, find what works for you. Copying somebody else's organizational strategy may not work. Find what works for you. But the main thing is, if you do it in a way that doesn't work for growth, fixing it later is a nightmare. So
Scaling.
think about it the first time you do it.
And handles like when you're on tour, when and if stuff piles up and easy tasks become difficult. So like Vogel said, just kind of handle it as you can. Don't be lazy. There's no room for that, or you won't. You need to have your shit together, because on tour it's a full-time job just to get your job done. So you got to make sure all your personal affairs are in line. Let's get one more question here, and then we'll kind of close this out. We're coming up on a.
Oh yeah, this is actually a good one. Actually,
they were all good.
Maddie heckin' smokes.
I'm just kidding.
I know, but yeah, this one actually is interesting.
We're all interesting.
And Maddie referenced that Kiki is actually the one that asked the question. What size files do you send? Do you right off the bat send high res? Do you send low res because it's mostly for social, or you just send in proofs? What do you submit?
So it's kind of client dependent. Very few of my clients like have specific wants for like resolution and everything. So my standard is usually when I'm done editing after the show, I'll upload web-sized, like web resolution and social resolution photos.
Define that for
How
me.
many pixels
Are you
we
talking
talking here?
2,000 pixels,
What's
1,000?
your pixel count?
Yeah, we're talking 3,000 pixel edge.
That's a lot of pixels.
And we're talking 90-ish% quality when you're exporting from Lightroom. And that keeps my files like anywhere from like 2 megabytes to like 10 megabytes. And it's never anything bigger than that, which is pretty manageable to upload. And even when you're in giant arenas, actually, especially when you're in giant arenas or amphitheaters or whatever, the Wi-Fi is just a crapshoot every day. And there's a lot of days where I'm like hotspotting off my phone and trying to upload and I get no service. And there's been days where it's taken me 4 hours of just like sitting there trying to upload files individually.
It's that hockey locker room.
So just to make everything easy, the hockey locker rooms are not Wi-Fi friendly for some reason. But that's what I upload and that's what I deliver to the client. And usually what happens is I'll have like an approval process. So sometimes I'll send all of the photos, and sometimes for some clients, I'll be asked to send a selection of like 5 to 10 photos for the artist to approve. Those photos will get approved or denied, and then I'll take the approved ones and I'll export them high res, like full resolution, and they'll go into an approved folder. And for that will be like serviced to like media outlets that didn't get a press pass for the show, or magazines doing features. It's basically a place for like the label to pull from to post on socials, or the team or whoever wants to use from, and they're all approved. So generally every tour that I do, there's like an approved folder and then a master folder.
Is it approved or not approved? All web-sized.
I think the audio just changed again, but we still have you.
Yeah, that was weird.
I'm cycling pods. They keep dying.
Oh my God, pod cycling. That's a new one.
Yeah.
It sounds like something out of Star Wars. You guys are going to go with
It's a
the
sport
pod
from
cycling?
Wisconsin.
Yeah, right? We only do it in the wintertime. Okay.
Wisconsin pod cycling.
Well, thank you for the in-depth answers. I guess before we get going here, Maddie, is there anything you want to talk? I know we dropped your presets, all right, but is there anything else? Like, you have any new blog posts coming out soon, or anything you published lately that people should check out?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for promoting those presets.
Of course.
It's nice. It's a weird time trying to find a way to support yourself financially when there's no work at all. Well, trying to not be advantageous of anyone and trying to provide something that's actually useful and beneficial for photographers. I don't know. The presets are really what like I build all of my work off of and how I start editing every tour. And I hope people can find value in them. But in all this downtime, I've been trying to like write more articles and more about touring and like things to bring and good gear. And I just wrote one last week about building like a portable studio kit that you can travel with on tour.
Yeah, Ruby,
let's
get that link. I know you got it already.
Ruby, hit him with the link.
Hit him with the link, Ruby. Come on, let's go. All right, keep going.
Yeah, but that was one I spent a lot of time on, and I love traveling with like a studio kit. It's honestly like really diversified like the images I deliver almost every day on tour. Some artists love it. Some artists like aren't that crazy about it. It's not that important to them, but I love taking like studio quality images. Just to, like expand my portfolio. Number one, number two, they get a lot of use in like magazines and things like that. And I know it's like always the highest point of concern for a tour photographer, but images like that almost always get better like social media interaction on the artists like Instagram and Twitter and everything than any live photo.
And
which
it's a great post because you also list, as I recall, 4 different budget systems.
Yeah. There's obviously it's like battery powered were not that much of a thing a few years ago, as you guys definitely know. But things have changed a lot, and it's like it's pretty affordable to be able to put together just like a beautiful one light battery powered strobe setup with a nice softbox, and like make like pro level studio looking images backstage in a locker room.
Well, sweet.
Kiki, thank you for mentioning my podcast in the chat.
Oh yeah, Steve's got a podcast, Behind the Shot. Make sure you check it out. That radio voice isn't a mistake. He's practiced that for his whole life on the radio and on the podcast.
It's not really how I talk.
Goodness gracious. Anyway, well, you've now seen Maddie in all forms and sizes of squares and rectangles. So thank you for doing that today, Maddie, and thank you for your time. Real quick before we go, we're going to do this again next week. If you guys have an Instagram, the idea behind this is community and learning, so go ahead, throw your Instagram in the chat. You can scroll through, add to people, message them. I encourage people to talk to each other. I hope you come over here next time. If Maddie didn't get to any of your questions, the best way for him to answer them, and Maddie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is probably to tweet you, correct? Or is there a better tweet? And if it's a more in-depth answer, maybe feel free to send him an email. He does have a lot of information on his blog, so I would encourage you guys to read that first and check it out, see if you can answer it yourself, because he is although it might not seem it, he does stay very busy even during these times. That being said, thank you. Thank you, Steve, for joining me and hosting.
Thank you. And to everybody in the chat, thanks for coming by. And do me a favor, tell your friends.
Yeah.
Sundays, 5 p.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, or 3 a.m. in Sweden. Okay?
Or Spain, whatever.
Yeah. Somewhere else. Maddie, anything else you want to drop? Or are you good?
That is it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, team.
Steve, Adam, everyone should know. The other day, I was talking to someone about how I was explaining Adam to my girlfriend who hasn't met him, and I was just like, looking at his Instagram and looking at all of these photos and realizing like how much he does for the photography community, like mentoring people, providing information, doing things like this. Like Adam spends so much time and gets fulfillment of the soul as a benefit, but is just I don't know. As my idol when in 2008, it has remained that way, and I don't know. What you do is amazing. Happy that you do it. You're a great influence in the photography community. And Steve,
he took the hat off.
I tipped my hat to you.
I
tipped my hat to you. He threw me some fucking. I swore.
Yeah, none of that was true. That was all a scam to get your hat off.
Thanks,
anyway,
man.
see you.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Peace. Yeah. Thanks, Vogel. Thanks for the kind words. Didn't mean to brush over that. I appreciate you. And it's mutual. All right. We're out.
I love you.
Peace.